Alright, in this one we're going over video 2, by the way. We're going over union movement, the background of it, the labor issues, the strikes, and also the Russian Revolution, its causes, the leaders, Lenin, obviously, its events, the March Revolution, and the outcome of it all. So the union movement of World War I. When the United States entered the First World War in 1914, a recession had begun stifling its economic growth. The war effort improvised these conditions through increased population. As the war effort ramped up, many moderate labor unions or trade and work organizations played a role in this boom. The labor revolt. The ongoing economic depression initially hampered any strong organized opposition to the war or the boarding government. In 1915, however, increased the industrial output of the war effort helped to end the depression. In response to conscription and a lack of workers' rights, laborers engaged in a revolt against employers, the war, and the federal government. The increasing radicalization of labor led to the violent Winnipeg strike in June 1919. The national repression of labor radicals followed in the aftermath. How did World War I affect labor unions? It was not a bad time to be part of a moderate union that advocated against child labor and for improved working conditions and wages. On the flip side, unions did have to agree to regulations during wartime, such as their pledge not to strike, which would have been stopped production and affected the war effort. Okay, now the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution was a pair of revolutions in Russia in 1917, which dismantled the Tsarist autocracy, A-U-T-O-C-R-A-C-Y, and led to the rise of the Soviet Union. The Russian Revolution causes: Bloody Sunday in 1905, the Russian defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, both helped lead to the 1917 revolution. Those are the two main points. Right, we're right about those. After taking over, the Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread to the Russian people. In 1917, Lenin returned to Russia from exile with German help. Bloody Sunday, right about this, or Red Sunday, is the name given to the events of Sunday, 22 January 1905 in St. Petersburg, Russia, when unarmed demonstrators led by Father Georgy Gapon, G-A-P-O-N, were fired upon. And what was the other one? The Russo-Japanese War. Okay, no need more on that. So Vladimir Lenin, better known as his alias Lenin, was a Russian revolutionary politician and political theorist. He served as head of government of Soviet Russia from 1917 to 1922, and head of the Soviet Union from 1922 to 1924. Lenin on the revolution. Lenin was the leader of the radical socialist Bolshevik Party, Bolshevik, later renamed the Communist Party, which seized power in the October phase of the Russian Revolution of 1917. After the revolution, Lenin entered the new Soviet government that formed in Russia. He became the leader of the USSR upon its founding in 1922. The March Revolution was a pair of revolutions in Russia in 1917 that ended Tsarist autocracy and led to the rise of the Soviet Union after the bloodshed of 1905. Tsar Nicholas II, the second, I guess, promised the formation of a series of representative assemblies or dumas to work toward them. Russian Revolution outcomes. The Tsar and the Romanovs were executed by the Bolsheviks after the revolution.